We want to clean in the paint. We're going to call hand checking and body checking. And sportsmanship is an absolute must, okay?
He lets it fly.
Welcome back to the Two Shots in the Ball podcast. I am your host, Mike McAndrews. Our co-host, Jim McAndrews, is on vacation this week. Him and his family headed down to Florida for spring break, so we hope they're having fun and hope that they have safe travels back. But I am excited about our guest this week. It's a guy that I met a while ago while he was coaching in the high school ranks here in Michigan. He has quickly ascended through the college ranks and is recently back in the state of Michigan at the college ranks. And I'm real excited to catch up with him, pick his brain a little bit about basketball and see what he's up to now. So let's introduce this week's guest. Today's guest is a rising coach in the college basketball ranks. He started his coaching career at Dearborn-Fortson High School after he graduated from Fortson, where he was a standout all-city player. He then spent one season as an assistant coach at University of Michigan Dearborn before being named head coach at Roseville High School in 2017. In his 4 years at Roseville, his teams won 3 district championships and won the first regional championship in school history. In 2021, he was named head coach at Macomb Community College, where he assembled the best teams in program history. In his first season, he led the Monarchs to a 25-5 record and the program's first ever MCCAA championship. In the 2022-23 season, he led Macomb to the NJCAA Division II National Championship game, the best finish in program history, while also winning numerous Junior College Coach of the Year awards. In 2023, he was hired at Central Michigan University as an assistant coach, where he would spend 2 seasons. In 2025, he was hired as an assistant at Cal State Fullerton, where he helped the Titans win 12 more games than they had the previous season. Last month, he was hired as an assistant coach at Eastern Michigan University by new head coach Billy Donlin. I'm excited to have my guy, Hassan Nazim, a.k.a. Coach Niz, join us today on the show. Coach Niz, good to see you, man. Thanks for joining us.
Good to see you too, Coach. Appreciate you having me, man. It means a lot.
Happy to have you back in the state. Your journey is one, Coach, that ascended rather quickly through from, you're talking 2017, you're coaching high school, now 2026, you're on your 3rd Division I job. That's quite a meteoric rise for sure. Think back to, all your time in the game from your playing days to now as an assistant at Eastern Michigan University. Tell our listeners your story in terms of the game of basketball, playing, coaching. Start from the beginning.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Mike. And honestly, for me, it starts with, I always tell people the basketball community in the state of Michigan is unbelievable. And I'm a product of that, even going back to my youth days. For me, playing basketball started in the backyard, getting my butt kicked by my brother. Older brother. He was 3 years older than me, but he's always 4 or 5 inches taller than me. So trying to figure it out and him challenging me every day helped me get better as a player. So it was in our blood. That's what we did till the sun went down every day. And then, just through, again, just the coaches and all the people in the area, starting with Ali Sayed at Hype Athletics. That was my first experience with organized basketball in my early years, being a part of a team in the 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. And then being able to go to Dearborn-Fortson, the local high school, with a lot of tradition in that program with Guy Del Judas and Jeff Del Judas. And then when I got to high school, my sophomore year, I played for Coach Osebo Hassan. That JV year was one of the best years of my life, just in terms of taking that next step as a player and becoming ready for the varsity level. And then ironically, the next year he became the varsity coach. So then I got to play varsity for him. But before I got to high school, interesting part of it was in the 8th grade, I got cut. I got cut in the 8th grade from Laurie Middle School. And it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me because I had 2 relatives that coached basketball. One was a middle school basketball coach and one was a high school basketball coach. So as an 8th grader, I sat on their benches. And that's when I knew I wanted to coach. I saw the game from a different angle at a very young age and just got super interested in it. But it also motivated me because, you use failure at a young age. And again, I had the right people in my corner that we turned it into a motivation. I played football in elementary and middle school, but when I got cut in the 8th grade, I said, that's it. I'm locked in on this. So moving on to Fortson, had a good career there, played for a really good coach. And this is kind of a brag, but by the time I was a senior, I was the only kid from Laurie Middle School that was a varsity basketball player. So
Redemption
I actually,
tour.
the coach who cut me in 8th grade, which I got a lot of respect for him, I invited him to my senior night. All right, which that was very special. And it wasn't like I told you so. It was a, hey, you were a part of my journey. You helped me grow. You motivated me to be better. So played for Coach Abu Hassan in high school. Had some opportunities after that to play at the collegiate level, small college. Ended up, signing at Mary Grove College, which is closed now. NAIA school right around the block from where I grew up, and was really, really excited to do that. And then at the end of my senior year, you're working out with the college team and doing open gyms. Well, my high school coach, he says, so my senior year, I was the only senior on the team. So all the guys, we had a good nucleus of sophomores and juniors that were coming up. So coach asked me, he said, hey, could you work those guys out in the spring? Because he was also a football coach. You know how that gets when you're coaching different sports. I said, absolutely. So I start working these guys out in April and May and just started falling in love with it, Mike, watching these guys get better, going from being their teammate to somebody who was now part of their development behind the scenes. So I started gauging my interest. Now, I always knew I wanted to coach, and my goal was I was going to go to Mary Grove, play for 4 years, get my teaching certificate, come back to Fortson, and my dream was to be the head coach there one day. Kind of like you, going back to Cardinal Mooney and doing it forever. That's what my plan was. Early that summer, I started helping out coaching that AAU team that a lot of the local guys that I played with were on for Ali at Hype. And I'll never forget it. I remember it like it was yesterday, Mike. It's July. We're at Spiece in Indiana for the AAU Nationals. And Ali Said was the head coach. I was his assistant. Just graduated high school like 3 weeks ago. And he had coached 3 or 4 games that day, and he wasn't feeling good. And we had like a 7:00 tip. He said, "Hey, you got this one. You got it." I said, "Really?" I was still 17 years old.
Yeah.
So I coached that game. We ended up beating the Iowa Barnstormers, I think was their name, in like a 90-89 classic. Went to overtime. Unbelievable game. I came home from that trip and I called my high school coach and I said, hey, I just want to coach starting now. Like, I love this. Obviously I'm still going to go to college and pursue my degree, but I want to start coaching now. He wasn't too happy about it. Because he invested a lot into me, into helping me develop into a college player. So it took him some time, and then as the fall approached, he called me and he said, "Hey, I got a job for you to come be the assistant freshman coach." So I'm on cloud 9, like, let's go, let's do this. And at that point, I'm coaching 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, AAU, and little league at Hype. So now a chance to coach high school right after graduating. So I do that. And then the next year, I was the JV assistant coach. And that second year, I worked for Michael Alley was the JV coach at Forts, and I was the assistant. And Mike played a huge part of my growth as well. So the last 4 or 5 games of that season, he allowed me to be the head coach. And that was another thing that was huge for me in terms of just development and growth and being able to be in that chair at such a young age. And then at the end of the year, and Mike, I didn't know this at the time, Mike was setting me up to be the JV head coach the following year. So I was able to then take over the following year while, helping out on the varsity. Did that for a couple years, and then had a chance meeting with Taylor Langley, who great, fantastic coach, great man, who was the head coach at U of M Dearborn at the time. So he just got the job at U of M Dearborn. If you remember the old field house before they renovated it, there was graduation or something going on. And coach said, he needed a place to have his open gyms. So he called our head coach at Fortson, said, hey, could I have our open gyms there? He said, yeah. He said, I'm going to have my young assistant be the one that lets you in and closes when you guys leave. So I took that as an opportunity to not only open the door for them and close it when they left, but to sit there and, meet coach and pick his brain and talk to him. And he ended up offering me a job. So that following year, I worked with Taylor, learned so much. And it was at that point, Mike, where I said, you know what? I think I want to coach college. I had just grew an interest for it, and it just being all basketball, right? It was really intriguing to me. And that spring at the end of the season, ironically, I am in a apartment at Eastern Michigan because I was a student here. And I'm on Indeed just looking at jobs, and they're coming up, and I see Roseville High School. And I said, hey, I didn't even know where Roseville was, what it was. I just saw boys basketball head coach. I said, I'm going to give this thing a shot. So I ended up applying for the job at Roseville, and they ended up surprisingly, I don't know why, but they called me and wanted to interview me. And it was my first time interviewing for a head coaching position. Thought it went really well, but I still didn't feel great about it. I was only 21 years old. And then they called me back for the second interview. And here's where I thought I had a chance, Mike. They told me the second interview was going to be an hour of conversation and then 45 minutes of putting 4 other players through a 4-man workout. I said, well, I've been doing this. This is what I
Yeah.
do, in terms
Yeah.
of just working out. So I felt super comfortable with that. And then, man, did that and got probably the best, well, might be still one of the best calls I ever got in my life from athletic director Denny Borzi offering me the position. And then went to Roseville for 4 years. And, look, we won a lot of games and did a lot of good things, but just like Calipari says, and I'm sure we'll reference this again about coaches win games, but administrations win championships.
Yep.
Um,
My
the
guy Pat
administration at
Adams.
Roseville.
It's my guy
Yeah,
Pat
exactly.
Adams was over
There you
there,
go.
man.
I was gonna
Yeah.
name drop Pat. Yeah.
He's
So
actually
it,
he's the principal of my daughter's school now.
okay, is he?
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, yeah. So I
Well,
see
Pat,
him
I'm
all the
sure you'll be
time.
watching this, so
Yeah.
we appreciate you. But yeah, man, there was total alignment, total alignment. Pat had just taken over as principal, and he wanted to be successful in athletics because he knew in the community, if you could bring those things together and keep the kids in the classroom, taking care of business, motivated through being student athletes, the success that could have. So, man, 4 great years. They supported me like no other. And I could tell you a ton of stories, and I'll share one now about Pat. So we're playing Sterling Heights Stevenson on the road. Mark Lacombe, great coach, had a good program going, and I got a technical foul late in the game, and I felt bad about it because it might have costed us the game. And Pat calls me into his office the next morning. Now I'm worried. Am I going to get fired? This
Yeah,
is my
yeah.
first year on the job, and getting a technical. And I sit down, and he looks at me, and he says, "I've been there before. You're going to be okay. Let's learn from it." So just having an administrator that had been a coach and he
Yeah.
he understood, not saying what I did was right, but that he understood
Sure.
that, hey, there's
The
there's there's a
emotions of the
lesson to
game.
learn
Yeah.
from, and yeah, and grow. So those guys were amazing, man. And if we talk about who the mentors were, I'm sure I'll talk
Yeah.
about a couple of
Yep.
Roseville people. And then, man, was fortunate. The right after COVID in 2021, the job at Macomb Community College came open. So went through that process, and God rest his soul, Lauren Rostovsky. He was a connector between myself and Brian Rizzo at the time. So he put me in position to have a chance to get that job. And 2 great years at Macomb. I'm surrounded myself with probably the best JUCO staff in the country, just young, hungry guys that are willing to put in the work and help these guys achieve their goals and dreams. So that was absolutely amazing. And obviously by the second year playing for a national championship, um, still have some regrets about that Saturday evening, but the journey's what made it
Yep.
special. And you know, at some point in my Macomb tenure, I can't remember exactly when, Tony Barbie from Central Michigan started coming to our gym to recruit some of our players. Tony and I built a relationship, and he would watch our practices, and I would go up there and meet with him, and we would talk a lot of basketball. So when a job opened on his staff after the 22-23 season, Tony offered me a job. We had 2 tremendous years in Mount Pleasant. The first year, Coach Barbie won Coach of the Year. We finished top 3 in the MAC. And then the second year, could have gone better, had some injuries, but that's just the name of the game. And so things happen. I mean, a lot of people told me that your career really doesn't start until you get fired.
Yeah.
So our staff was obviously let go, and in came I'll call him an angel, named Diedrich
Yeah.
Taylor, the head
I
coach.
was gonna say, how'd you get to Cal State Fullerton?
Yeah, so no connections or anything. Diedrich Taylor, after Central Michigan deal, he called me to talk about a player that we were recruiting at Central Michigan. And as we dove into conversations with each other, it went about a week just talking about the kid and sharing transcripts and different things like that. His assistant called me and said, "Hey man, you probably didn't know this because nobody does. We have a job open on our staff. Coaches really enjoyed the conversations with you. Are you interested in the job?" I said, "Man, I said, absolutely." And I looked at where Fullerton was on the map, and I said, "Extra absolutely." you know.
Yeah.
So, so that's how kind of that came about. A chance encounter turned into conversations. And like, I will say this, like, I was trying to help the kid land somewhere because he was supposed to come play
Yeah.
for us at CMU. Didn't know anything about a job or anything like that. It just kind of happened that way. And after 2 or 3 interviews and conversations, one thing that coach did that really stood out to me was he almost interviewed my wife in a way where he wanted to make sure she was good with it. She was going to be
Yeah.
good with moving cross country. So that was great, and then the funny part about it is we flew out there, we land at John Wayne Airport, we get the rental car, we get on the freeway. My wife looks at me. Well, she looks around, then she looks at me and she says, "You're taking this job." So that's kind of how that came out. And And then lastly, being here now at Eastern Michigan, it was always a goal and dream of mine to coach at this specific institution. It's in my backyard where I grew up. I went to school here. There's no reason why this place can't get back to the dance and be really successful. Even it doesn't matter if this era, the last era, it's a special place, and I'm excited to hopefully be a part of the resurgence of it. But yeah, ironically with Coach Billy, we kind of just, yeah, I don't know how exactly it happened, but we were connected to each other, and through all the conversations we had, Coach offered me a job, and like I said, it was a no brainer for me for a couple of reasons, and really the last one being the opportunity to come back home. One, I think Eastern Michigan's a special place. I think there's alignment between the administration and athletics, and also I think Coach Billy is special. And some people around the state know him because he spent the year with John Beeline.
Yep.
But great man, great coach, and to have an opportunity to come here and work for him, work with him, was something I'm really grateful for.
Awesome. Well, I know my guy Bobby Patterson, who listens to this, who I've referenced Bobby in his fight against cancer. He's an EMU alum, and when I would go visit him, those were the days with Earl Boykins, Derek Dial, all those guys. They had a squad back then
Yeah,
that upset made a tourney, running the tourney. So he'll be excited to hear you say back to the glory days. That's for sure.
for sure.
So
For sure.
Coach, we've all had, mentors or people in our lives as coaches, when we played, or even as once we got into the profession, that have had a huge impact on us and our careers. Who are some of those guys for you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Like thinking back to where it all started, like, obviously my intermediate family, but Coach Juice Beydoun, God rest his soul, from Dearborn Etzel Ford, who passed away suddenly last year. He used to open the gym for us on Sundays and train us. He was a great player. He's a Hall of Famer at U of M Dearborn, leading scorer in Dearborn Forts in history. So he was a legend in our community. So he would open the gym for us. We'd go to the park. We'd play with him growing up. And then when Ali Said established hype, he played a great role in getting us away from the video games and keeping us in the gym, just getting better constantly and giving us, kids. Dearborn's mostly known as like a football community. That's where the
Yeah.
tradition is. So for him opening the doors for us that love basketball, and then on to high school, Coach Abu Hassan was amazing for my development. Still is to this day. He's somebody that I call whenever I need advice or anything like that. Guy Del Judas, Jeff Del Judas, the guys who came before him at Fortson. And then, like I said, when I got to Roseville, the Pat Adams, the Denny Borzy, Jeff Kane, those amazing guys that were basketball players and basketball coaches that, Mike, when we got a 30-minute prep hour, and rather than go out to have lunch, I'm going to Jeff Kane's room to sit and say, hey, Jeff, this is what my practice is looking like the rest of the week. What do you think? Or, hey, I'm dealing with this thing. What do you think? So I had three guys in that building that were previous high school head coaches at a young age. I didn't want to make any decisions myself without, validation from them. So I leaned on those guys a lot. And then, just guys in the Metro Detroit community that I consider mentors, whether it's Waleed Samaha, Tom Negoshian, John Jokai. I mean, those three in particular, but the list could go on and on. Like, again, when I say I'm a
Those are three
product
good
of
ones.
really
Those are
great
three
ones,
good
great
ones.
ones. And if I could say, like, when I say I'm a product of the basketball community in Metro Detroit and Michigan, and that's why, like, as a young coach, I was able to call these guys. I was able to call you and get advice during COVID. How should we do this? What should we do here, there? So, just all the people that have given back to me as a young coach. I mean, it's been absolutely phenomenal. And then even just the transition to Macomb with Brian Rizzo, who I think is one of the best athletic directors in the country, and being able to lean on all his experience. He's a guy who hired Noel Emmenheiser at Madonna and mentored him at a young age. And we all know how great Noel is. So I was
Yep.
able to have the same mentor for a few years at Macomb, and then getting to Central Michigan and learning from Tony Barbie, who played and worked under John Calipari, who saw the game a way different way than I ever imagined it. And I learned so much. And the guys that I worked with on that staff, Chris McMillan, who's a veteran in this industry, Scott Cherry, who was the head coach at High Point for 10 years, being able to lean on those two guys. Going to Cal State Fullerton, Dedrick Taylor is the winningest head coach in Cal State Fullerton history, played in 2 NCAA tournaments, learned so much from him. I could go on all day about what I've learned from Dedrick in the last 10 months. And with Dedrick, it started with how to treat people and how to manage people and how to get the most out of people. So it took a lot of great things away from him. And now, I'm sure I'm missing some names, but man, just I could end it with Billy Donlin. I mean, I've been with the guy for 2 weeks, and I could tell you I know a lot more about basketball today than I did the day before I stepped foot on campus. So just so many people, Mike, that have poured into me over the years that I'm so freaking blessed for it.
Awesome. So I do want to kind of circle back at your time at Macomb, because to me, having known you, and like that was kind of where you took off in your collegiate coaching career. You turned that program into a national power in a short period of time in 2 years. You were able to send so many guys onto the Division I schools and help them fulfill their dream. You produced a few All Americans as well, and I would say at the time when you were at Macomb is when I started to notice you were everywhere. I mean, you were
Right.
recruiting your tail off. You were at every game. You were seeing every kid. You were visible. You and your staff were like, you hit the ground running. You were pounding the pavement and you turned that thing around very quickly. At that time, I think in Macomb, you really proved to a lot of us, but I'm sure to a lot of coaches, college coaches, your ability to recruit really high level talent. How much at that time at Macomb, how special was it for you, and how important do you think it is in your overall career and where you're at?
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. And it was very important, and it was a very, very special time in my life. Just that 1 year, a small sample size of college basketball experience under Taylor Langley and learning how to navigate the recruiting space. So I got to come in with that. Man, I had a great staff, and as you know, at this level, I mean, it's stipends, Mike. So
Oh
got to
yeah,
have guys that love it and want to do it. So I mean, from Tyler Johnson, Kyle Lorenzen, Will Pitselis, Dean Rostovsky, all the guys that helped establish and that were willing to be in 4 or 5 different high school gyms every Tuesday and Friday night at 7 o'clock. And not only, and this is, speaking of my whole staff and myself, not only, sometimes people think, oh, you go out just to evaluate players. But it's not just about that. It's about going and building relationships and meeting people and shaking hands and talking about yourself and your program and what you guys are about and having those face-to-face interactions with guys. I mean, Mike, I've been to more gyms where we didn't recruit a player than we did, but every
yeah,
single one of them served its purpose in terms of building relationships and establishing the program that we were trying to build. So, man, we just worked really, really hard at it. We tried to, one of the things that I tried to do and learning from some previous JUCO coaches was, we wanted to bring good people on the bus. One thing I truly believe in is like it's hard to win, whether doesn't matter, junior high, high school, Division I. It's hard. And I'm a big believer that doing hard things with good people makes the journey worth it. So we just try to identify the best people that we could possibly get at that level that just so happen to be good at basketball and bring them all together. And I guess from a schematical standpoint, the timing was right for us because the transfer portal had just become a thing. So now it wasn't just recruiting non-qualifiers, right? Our pool was a lot bigger,
yeah.
and we casted a big net, and we went and we got high academic guys that would have been Division I and Division II players out of high school, but the portal and the COVID and
Oh
and the
yeah,
extra
COVID
year
really.
stuff,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it put a dent in it. So we were really fortunate. Like I had John Ukamato who played for me at Roseville, who's now, you know, this close to being in the
Being,
NBA. He's been
yeah,
playing really well for the Motor City Cruise. We were so fortunate. Like my life changed the day he said yes to coming to Macomb. That automatically made Macomb relevant and a contender. And now, one thing I've learned coming into all these programs is you get that one guy to say yes, and then it just becomes a snowball effect. So credit to John for trusting us after the time we spent with him at Macomb or at Roseville. Like, man, I screamed at him so much at Roseville, I was scared he didn't want to deal with that
yeah,
again.
yeah.
So, so he ends up coming back, and again, we're able to put together, really good rosters. But it started with building relationships and high school coaches and AAU coaches in the area understanding and knowing that their players were going to be in good hands, that they were going to be held accountable, that there was going to be a standard of excellence in the classroom, in the community, the way they went about their lives. We don't expect young men to be perfect. We've all made mistakes, but that we were going to guide them and we were going to lead them to accountability. So that was a big part of it, that trust level where, if we got on the phone with a recruit and then he called his high school coach and it was like, yeah, the old Roseville coach is recruiting me to Macomb, and their high school coach would be like, you're going there.
Yeah,
We want you
yeah,
to play for them. They're going to develop you. They're going to lead you to accountability. They're going to do right by you. So, and I always say, like, and it's something I already learned from Coach Donlin, and I think it helped now knowing that it helped us at Macomb. He always says, trust but verify. So we're asking these young men to trust us, but there's got to be some verification. So I take a lot of pride in, call our former players, call people that coached against us, call people that know what we're about to verify what we're telling you guys. So,
Yeah.
all those things allowed us to put together, and obviously just, getting in the car and just driving 4 or 5 hours to recruit and doing that stuff on our own dime and making those sacrifices. Like, we didn't care. We were just young, reckless, and
And
dumb, and we
hungry.
were going to find a
Yeah.
way, and hungry. Yeah. And we were going to find a way to do it. So yeah. And then by that first year, we learned a lot about how to go about the process, and we won games, but we made a ton of mistakes that we learned from. Now going into year two, it put us in position to, like, all right, this is what we need. This is how we got to do things. This is how we got to operate. And we were able to have a little bit more success that second year, just through trial and error.
Yeah, it was an awesome experience for somebody who is a Macomb County resident, right, and knew you to see that program take off on a national level. And I know there was a lot of hard work from you and your staff that went into assembling that team and doing it the right way. Kudos to you, man. That was an amazing 2-year run that you guys had there. So I want to stay on recruiting a little bit. I'm sure you and your staff and the staff at Eastern, are hard at work on recruiting on both fronts. Maybe a high school player, but also the portal right now. We all saw the success, Michigan winning the national championship through the NCAA tournament. They ran through it, and they assembled most of their talent through the portal. Um, do you think this is the new norm for college basketball moving forward? And how is it different than you're used to recruiting?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Mike. I think it's the norm because it is what it is right now. I think there will eventually be some guardrails and some things that could, kind of put it in place. Like, I love the fact that players are making money. I just wish there was a little bit more structure in terms of the transferring, so there could be, better ways to go about it. But, just like in anything, like Tom Izzo said it, so I'm going to quote him. He said, "You adapt or you die," right? So
Yeah,
you gotta be able to adjust to the times. In today's day and age, that just is what it is, right? There's gonna be 5,000 names in the transfer portal every year. Whether every staff that I've been on, we haven't, and speaking on this recent one, we're not just locked in on the transfer portal. We still want to take the right high school kids, the right junior college kids. Obviously, there's the international side of things as well. But it's a big deal. It's a big deal, and you got to make sure that. I was just telling somebody the other day, Mike, like, in previous times, you evaluated a kid for 3 years, 4 years. You watched him play 15U AAU, and then his sophomore year of high school, then 16U, then his junior year, and then you knew who you wanted, and it was a 3, 4 year. Now it's like you got to really, really evaluate. You got to do your homework. You got to, get intel from people that you trust, because these whole recruiting processes now are like 3 or 4 days.
yeah.
Um,
I was
you
talking
know,
to when we had Greg Campy on. He said there are guys he's recruited without ever having met them. He's talking to agents instead of
yeah,
student athletes, and that's just wild to me right now, right?
yeah,
Like, and I, for me, it hurts. The mid majors. You guys got to be your roster reconstruction every year has to be painful, right? Because if
yeah,
you get a
yeah,
guy better, he's gonna go looking for a bag, right? And you guys developed
right.
him. So that's gotta be difficult, and I do agree there's gotta be some guardrails put on it,
Yeah,
in
hopefully
terms
they
of
do it at
5
some point.
schools in 5 years type thing.
Yeah. And I will say, in terms of the alignment with administrations and coaching staffs, there has to be that alignment, and that alignment allows for retention.
Yeah,
And part of also what helps with retention is the student athlete experience. And one thing I was going to say is, like, official visits at the Division 1 level used to be like 72 hours. Now they're like 12 hours. Like,
yeah,
let's bring you on campus, let's have dinner, let's do a couple meetings, and then let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Like,
yeah,
that's just
yeah,
what it's become. And to speak, like, for me, I obviously didn't know this at the time, but those 2 years at Macomb, and really we put together 3 rosters at Macomb, but I had left the Central Michigan late that spring. Um, it prepared me for this, because you're at the JUCO level, you're replacing 8 to 10 guys every year,
yeah,
because
true.
the 2 year window. So I kind of was prepared for it. It didn't really catch me by surprise, but it is a lot, and obviously watching what Michigan did, like, if I was going to compare Michigan to Kentucky, they both did the same thing, except for one hit and one didn't.
Yeah,
So you want to take, and no offense to anybody, it is what it is. The success from Dusty and his staff, and they obviously not only hit on their evaluations, but they got those guys too. And I think the most important part of this whole portal stuff is the chemistry part. You could go get all the talent in the world. You could have the most NIL in the world. You still got to hold them accountable. You still got to coach them. You still got to get them to care about the outcome and most importantly, care about each
Mhm.
other. So
Yeah.
like we
To me,
we no, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
the most impressive thing that he's done at Michigan is not just like it's the right guys for his system out of the portal,
Mhm.
yet he's getting them all to um you're going to put up less numbers for the good of the team, and they're all buying into it.
Yep. Yep. No, absolutely. And I've seen and been a part of teams that have finished two different situations that finished third place in a really, really good league with this much NIL and
Yeah.
teams playing against teams that had this much NIL that finished way below us. So there's still that culture still matters, coaching
Oh yeah.
still matters, camaraderie still matters, player development still matters. All those things still matter, Mike. And just through my experiences, the one thing I've learned, you just got to do it in a shorter amount of time.
Yeah. And I think that's, in terms of how kids are getting recruited today, you do have to pivot if you're a college coach, right? And you do have to adapt to what's going on. And I do think, I've talked to a number of Division I coaches on this podcast, and I do believe that it's still a lot of it is relationship based, right? Like I
Mhm.
hear everybody talk about it's transactional now. Well, it might be on the money front, but they still have to trust you. You have to still build a relationship with them once they're on campus in order to
Yeah.
get what you want.
Absolutely. And just to touch on that real quick with relationships, because I didn't mention this in the journey part. I was fortunate to coach AAU for the Michigan Warriors and for the family. So I got to coach a lot of I was like literally blessed and fortunate to coach a lot of really good players from the state. So now it's like a lot of those guys are the guys in the portal or their younger brothers or somebody they played with. So again, trust but verify, and those relationships are still at the forefront of everything.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think you've done an outstanding job, and I know that's why you've kind of ascended through the ranks is your ability. I saw it firsthand when you were at Macomb, your ability to build relationships with kids and families and earn their trust. You're a relentless recruiter.
Yeah.
So, what are some as we're talking about recruits at the college level, in today's day and age, right, where social media, instant gratification, everybody's looking for something better. What are some of the intangibles you're looking for in a recruit? Forget the basketball stuff. If you're recruiting them, it's clear that you think they can play, right? But I think it's
Yep.
important for parents and players out here to hear from college coaches about some of the intangible things that coaches are looking for besides how talented they are in terms of maybe are you scrubbing their social media? Are you looking at what they're saying, what they're doing, how their family behaves? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, all of those things, and it comes down to character at the end of the day. And you're recruiting their whole circle. You're recruiting a family. Your family is going to become a part of our family if we're on the same team at the end of the day. So obviously, like you said, talent is talent, especially at the Division I level. You've got to possess some talent, right? But it's everything else too. And to me, I could simplify it and say, do they care about outcomes? Are they competitive, right? And how you do anything is how you do everything. So the way you approach that English paper that's due in a week, I can't expect you to approach a big game any differently. Like I can't look at you, and again, nobody's perfect, and this school is what it is. But just using that as an example of how you do anything is how you do everything. So just seeing how guys operate in different spaces, it usually correlates to how they operate on the floor. Like if you're a guy who your high school coach's intel is that you're never on time, well, you might be on time when you get here if you got here, but I can't expect you to be at the midline on time on a
Yep.
baseline drive. So
Yep.
everything correlates. So just the way you learn quickly in a recruiting process what's important to somebody, and then having parents that understand, that get it, and then ultimately, like, it's a two-way street. Like, we're trying to help you create value for yourself. Nick Saban always talks about that. It's one of my favorites. Part of this is we're going to help you create value for yourself. Creating value for yourself is helping you go from a kid to a young man to a successful adult in the real world through getting a degree, through obviously playing the sport that you love. And if it presents professional opportunities after, great. But are you going to help us help you become a productive member of society, a great husband, a great father, a great family man, somebody who gives back in the community? Like, all those things are the end goal, but you kind of learn early on if we're going to be able to work together on that. And sometimes you get signs of like, man, he's really good, but we're out. you know,
Yeah, I was gonna say, have you
yeah,
not recruited a kid because of their social media or mom and dad or people in
absolutely.
their circle? Um,
Absolutely. And,
yeah,
nowadays you could throw agent into that too. Their
yeah,
agent might get squirrely, and now all of a sudden it's, hey, we gotta be out. And you know, the old saying that a wise coach once said is, if you take him, he might cost you 30 times. If you don't take him, he might beat you twice. That's fine. You
yeah.
know, so just from that standpoint. But no, then that was an unbelievable question.
Yeah,
I
because
feel
I
like
think
the
it's
recruiting,
important for young kids and their parents to understand how important it is that the responsibility that they have with their behavior on the court, off the court. I talk to my
yes,
players at nauseum about what they're doing off the court, representing our program, but more importantly, their last name, and what they put on social media and how it can affect our program, their families, themselves. And I think it's important for a lot of parents and players who are navigating the hope of going to be a college basketball player, letting them know that that's also an important part of it.
yeah. And lastly on that, Mike, I'll say an important thing for myself that I like to evaluate is how the prospect handles things when they're not going their way. That's a big thing. Your team's losing, but you're playing well. You know, your team's winning, but you're not playing as much. You're in foul trouble. It's somebody else's night, you know, because at the end of the day, at the college level, everybody could play. You're a part, you're going to be, and I used to tell my guys in Macomb all the time, those Division I coaches that are evaluating you, they're not evaluating you to go play tennis or golf for them.
Right.
They're evaluating you to come be a part of something that's already in place. So again, that willingness to sacrifice, that willingness to understand, hey, Mike's hot that day. I'm gonna make sure Mike gets 30 shot attempts, and I'm good with that. You know, so
Yeah.
just
And
that
I've said
understanding
that
that.
at length to some of the kids that I've had that went on to play in college. Like they're here, the coaches are here because they know you can play. They trust my evaluation. They know you can play. They're going to judge you on everything else, on what kind of
Yep.
teammate you are, what kind of attitude you have, your interaction with opposing players, referees, and everybody else. So I think
Right.
that's important for kids to know too. All right. So for those of us who love this profession like you and I do, in order to be successful, you have to have a supportive family and spouse behind you. Talk about the support system your wife is for you and how happy you were to be able to come back to, and she was to be able to come back to the state of Michigan.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking that. And I'm gonna save her the best for last. I'll start off with like my family, my brothers, my brother, my sisters, my mom, dad, grandpa, grandma, cousins, everybody through the days at Fortson, Roseville, Macomb, they rarely missed a game. So just having that support system to start my career was fascinating. Even just you know, this past year, like my family, my mom's a teacher. I'm a son of a teacher and a baker. And so my mom's got to get up to work at 7 o'clock in the morning probably earlier than that. But she's up watching the West Coast games that tip off at 10 o'clock at night, you know, and then
Hmm.
texting me after the game, great win, or hey, we'll get the next one. So just that shared investment they've all had into me has been fascinating. And then, you know, my wife, I mean, she's been nothing short of amazing in all accounts, but obviously specifically with this basketball stuff, she knew what she was getting herself into. And I'll share a funny story. So on one of the first times we actually hung out with each other years ago, was my first year in Macomb, and I had just had a kid on a visit that morning, and her and I were going out to dinner at night. And one of my assistants texted me. He said, "Hey, I really think you should send him an edit for how you're going to use him offensively next year." So I said, "Oh boy." So we're in the car, and I pull out my phone and go on Synergy, and I'm like, "Hey, are you good if I do this?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, you're good." So I make the edit while we're on a date, make the edit, get it together, send it to the kid, and she was good with it, and he ended up committing. So that
Keeper,
was like this,
keeper.
yeah,
Yeah.
keeper,
Yeah.
right there. But no, and she's been great. She's a big supporter of our team, our players. She's invested in it too. She's now been at 4 different schools since we've been together. Macomb, Central Michigan, Cal State Fullerton, and now Eastern Michigan. So she's super involved. She gets it. She understands the early mornings and the long nights. You know, I'll try to continue to do a better job of being present where I'm at, you know, when I'm supposed to be there. But as you know, Mike, in this profession, we always take it home with us. So that's the part that I need to improve at. But overall, I mean, she's a blessing for me and for the teams that I get to have the opportunity to coach, and for the players I have the opportunity to coach, because she understands that pouring into them is very important as young men, and she allows me to do that.
Well, Niz, I appreciate you joining me today. It has been great to catch up with you, my man. I have, as you know, texted you at every one of your stops. I try and catch as many games as possible.
You watched
Having
a bunch of West Coast games as well.
I did. I was
You did.
texting you, I was taking pictures of you after the game and sending it to you. It's been fun for me to watch your journey and your rise to where you're at, and I'm really happy for you and your family to be able to come back in your backyard and coach at Eastern Michigan. And I know you guys will have a tremendous impact there. I look forward to catching up now that you're back in the state and coming out to games and practices and picking your brain a little bit on what you guys do. And I wish you continued success. And I know you guys are going to get that thing turned around. So thanks again for joining today.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you having me, and just want to shout you out here for everything you've done for your best friend Bobby
I
Patterson.
appreciate it.
He's been in my thoughts and prayers through. I know he's gonna continue fighting and win. But just shout out to you for the way you galvanized the whole basketball world. It felt like to support Bobby, and for what you do with this podcast, man. I mean, all the recruiting trips, the long drives. I've got to listen to a lot of cool episodes, a lot of cool people that I've learned from on this, and also shout out to you, lastly, for just being who you are, Mike. I mean, you've been at Cardinal Mooney for a long time. I'm not going to say how long, so I don't give away the age. But you talk about mentors, and sometimes the mentors aren't just people that you spend every day with, but they're people that you see from afar and have tremendous respect for the way they operate and do it in this business. So I appreciate you for that.
Well, I appreciate you too. And, when we started to do this thing, you were a guy on our list that I, had penciled in that we want to talk to you about your journey. It's been amazing. And I'm looking forward to continue watching your journey as you continue to rise in this profession. So once again, Coach Niz, I look forward to seeing you soon and coming out to a practice. Take care.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, episode 22 is in the books. Great catching up with Coach Niz, new hire at Eastern Michigan University. That guy has ascended very quickly on the college basketball ranks from, high school 10 years ago to JUCO, now to his third Division I job. And I look forward to see what him and the staff at Eastern Michigan does with that program. I want to thank you for tuning in to episode 22 of Two Shots in the Ball. Jim should be back in next episode, and we'll see you then. Thanks.
We want to clean in the paint. We're going to call hand checking and body checking, and sportsmanship is an absolute must, okay?
He lets it